Welcome to the Journey to CEO Success. I'm your co-host, Melissa Saunders, and I'm joined by Patrick Tia. He's an award-winning serial entrepreneur, renowned CEO coach, and best-selling author recognized by the Wall Street Journal, USA Today, and Amazon. Patrick's latest book, The Journey to CEO Success, is a #1 Amazon bestseller and the inspiration behind this podcast. Patrick, it's great to have you here. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I just can't wait to do these. We have a fantastic guest today.
We do. Today, we're joined by Ryan Huette, president of New Way Transportation. What makes Ryan's story especially interesting is that his leadership journey reflects deep internal growth. Before stepping into the president's role, he served first in business development and national accounts leadership, giving him a front row seat to customer needs, growth strategy, and the realities of scaling a service-driven organization. We can't wait to hear about that journey. Welcome to the show, Ryan.
Thanks, Melissa.
Ryan, thank you so much for giving us your time today. So for our audience, you're in for a treat. I think Ryan has been through a number of different places in his career before he became president of this company. And so we have a lot to learn from his journey. If you wait to the end of the podcast, he'll give you one piece of advice that will help you have a more joyful and successful life and a tip on how to make that something you can do immediately. So Ryan, thank you again. So tell us about New Way Transportation. Tell us a little bit about the company. And
Yeah, absolutely, Patrick. Thanks for having me today. So New Way Transportation, we are a trucking and warehousing company. We are based in Bloomington, Illinois. So kind of right in the middle of the state between Chicago and St. Louis, but we serve nationwide. And what makes us unique is we do all contract work. So our trucks are spoken for the next 3 to 5 years, as opposed to a lot of other truckload freight, which is more transactional. So it's really a benefit to us because we get to dive in deep with our customers and be a part of their service model. Sometimes that's even going as far as having their names on the side of the trucks.
so I didn't understand what you said, because I don't know your industry well enough yet, but you said contract versus transactional. So what does contract mean? So tell me, what does contract mean in your world?
Yeah. So let's say that, Patrick makes couches, and Patrick knows that every day from his DC, he's going to need 5 trucks that go out to deliver to different locations. So we'll contract out 5 trucks, and then you can worry about making your sofas the best, most luxurious sofas around. And you don't have to worry about hiring a driver, the maintenance, all the insurance around that, or the risk with it. So we basically become your trucking company. And then we do that for about 3 to 5 years based on the type of work that we're doing. So if it's shorter haul, we can run them longer. If it's longer haul, we'll do a shorter contract based off the amount of miles that we're putting on them.
Gotcha. So let's talk about your personal journey. So tell us, how did you come into this opportunity to run this business that you did not start, by the way, which is another key lesson for us to listen for as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So I did not start it. About 32 years ago, Brian Schroff, who had been in the industry for decades, broke off from another trucking company and said, there has to be a better way to do this, a new way of doing this. And he started New Way Transportation. So
that's how the company got its name, New Way. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So there was meaning behind it, and it's NUWAY. So New Way Transportation, and it's evolved drastically over those 32 years. So it's really cool to look back on our roots and how we've continued to adapt, because if you're not adapting and evolving, you're dying. So it's really neat how we got to where we are today, and hopefully we'll continue down that path there. So I got into the seat that I'm in here today. I was actually a State Farm agent. So as I mentioned earlier, Patrick, I'm in Bloomington, Illinois. That is the headquarters of State Farm, right? So it's definitely in about half the people's blood around here. And in college, I got plugged in to a job at corporate, and I fell in love with sales. It was the best experience ever. And if you're in sales, or somebody in sales, you love it and you want to continue and run after that dream. And I thought State Farm had a great model to do that.
So tell me, slow down a little bit. Tell me why you love sales. I love that you said you love sales. So tell me why you love sales.
Yeah, because I'm crazy. No, I mean,
absolutely.
Yeah. It takes 2 different types of people, right? You need people that are growing the business and people that are running it. And as you'll talk to me today, you'll see that I just love people. I love working with people, learning about them, and then helping them with their problems. And, when you're selling a service or product, and that solves a problem. So I really like doing that with State Farm. I mean, you're protecting people from huge risk, whether that was, auto or life, and have the
Yes.
opportunity to give them something that they needed and to come through on it. And that for me is something that I've always loved about sales is what can distinguish you from other people is following through on your promise. And I love being a part of multiple companies where we had a great product, but most importantly, when you need us, we're there.
You said following through on your promise. I love that. In fact, that is one of the cornerstones of good execution. A lot of companies have trouble with execution, and it's because they have trouble doing what they committed to do. And when you don't do for your employees, your customers, your stakeholders, what you've committed or promised to do, bad things happen. And so when people ask me, hey, Patrick, how's good is my execution? I always ask them, well, how good is your commitment to done ratio? Like how many things
Yeah,
have you committed and how many do you actually get done? So I love that you view sales in that way as well.
absolutely. Yeah, no doubt about it. And it's a relationship situation that we're in here. Ultimately, a lot of the companies that we're going up against, they do great work. But at the end of the day, what separates us is when things go wrong, how do we respond in those situations? So that's when the promise really shows. When it's hard, how do you show up?
Yeah, I love that you said that when things go wrong. Can you share a couple of examples of how when something went wrong, that it was an opportunity for you to demonstrate and really build that trust with your customers? How do you
Yeah,
do?
great question. I love talking about where things went wrong. Thanks, Patrick. Thanks for calling me and talking about that.
Hey, actually, one of my old customers said to me once, something went wrong. Actually, we missed the deliveries. We actually screwed up the data and we fixed it. We fixed it. But at the end of it, he said to me, he said, Patrick, I'm going to be your customer forever. I
Yep,
said, wow. He said, because he said, when things are right, you don't know what the person's made of. He said, but
yep,
when things don't go right, you really see whether that person's going to be a good partner for you. And so he decided from the experience of going through a crisis with us that he could trust us. So that's why
absolutely.
I asked that question
Yeah. No,
what happened?
it's a
Yeah,
great question. And I heard at one time, never waste a good crisis, to what you said there. It's your
yes,
opportunity to show what they have in their partner, who they're working with. So for me, a couple that I can speak to, there was this crazy time about 5, 6 years ago called COVID, right? And
yes,
nobody knew what was going on. It was new to all of us. And we had to look at that and understand that it was our time to step up. And I love COVID looking back on it in terms of what it did in our industry. So truck drivers are incredibly hardworking individuals. They show up every day, sun or snow, you name it, any time of the day, they're out there busting their tail. And the grocery shop, the shelves were empty, right? I mean, toilet paper. That's all I have to say. You remember.
yes,
Yeah.
I
And
do.
that was a time where we decided that we were essential, that we had to keep going and we had to do everything we could for our drivers to make sure they understood how important they were, that they are the backbone of America. And we had to implement some things that we've never done before. But so our drivers found security in that, whether that was in terms of guaranteeing their pay and we know the work was going to be there, providing them with the right PPE so they could be safe when they go into these locations. And we built a plan and we adapted because it was COVID and we didn't know what to do. But in the end, we worked our way through it. And my favorite part about that is drivers finally got the respect they deserved. And that was just a great, great part where there was a crisis and we said, okay, how are we going to navigate through this? Set out a plan and we delivered. And that was just a huge win for our industry and for New Way.
And how did that create trust? Tell me about that building trust with your customers when that
Yeah.
happened.
I was taking phone calls all day, all night. People like, can we do this? What does this mean? And it was just showing up, right? It's like, Patrick, I don't know. I'm hearing we can do this. They say if we're essential, then we can keep working, but we're going to need to do this. And there was a lot of different times where it was like, we're going to work through this together. This is both of our first times. I'm going to help you the best I can, but I need your help. and we're going to figure out a way. So it was just that back and forth of we need each other. We want to serve you, but you have to work with us as we try to navigate this new situation.
So what do you do when you meet customers that don't seem to understand that trust, that collaboration is a two-way street? Because what I'm hearing you say, I really like, which is first you talked about commitment. You have to deliver on your commitments. I think that does create a lot of trust. But you also said, hey, we're going to serve you. I love the words you've chosen, Ryan. I'm going to serve you. And here's what we need you to do as well. So it is a collaborative thing. What do most of your customers understand that? And what do you do when you have customers that don't seem to understand that way of working?
Yeah, you got to build trust, right? I mean, and trust happens over time. I wish we could walk in and say, Ryan, I trust you. Obviously, you do that with your brand. You know, we've been around and people do know that we come through on what we say we're going to do. But I think just when you have these real conversations where it's like, you know, hey, why is your rate here? Well, it's because this is what we're going to pay the drivers. And we'll just flat out tell them, this is what our drivers are going to make. So they understand where the money's going. It's going to serve them. It's going to delight them because they do need a higher tier driver that's going to represent them. That's going to be safe because their name's on the side of the truck. So it's really trying to help them understand the why and just having open conversations. And maybe we overshare, but we're sharing with them what we're doing and why we're doing it.
Yeah. And for some of your clients, not all, right? But for some of them, their name is on the truck.
Yeah. Yeah.
So your trucks are an extension of their brand and people will see as you deliver their products to their customers, it's an extension of their brand.
Absolutely. That's exactly what it is. If we screw up, Patrick, they're going to call, again, Patrick's Sofa Company and say, your driver cut me off. And you're like, no, that's not my driver, but it is because you've hired us to represent you. So you're spot on.
Yeah. And it happens so much, in this world right now, there's so many handoffs and different partnerships happening. Even just something as simple as your iPhone. Why use an iPhone? Some people use an Android. I'm sorry for them. But anyway, I have an iPhone. So, if your favorite app doesn't work on the iPhone, you're wondering, right? Is it the app problem or is it the app or is it Apple's problem, etc.? So just using this one example, nowadays business is so complicated in that you have partnerships that have all these handoffs, but at the end of the day, the customer assigns blame as well as victories to the brand that is associated with the action.
Right.
You can't say, hey, you know what? I'm so sorry. That wasn't my driver, right? No, your driver still cut me off, right? I don't care what you say. Your name's on the truck. So yeah, that's good. That's good insight.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah. So tell us about your journey. So how did you, from sales, right? How did you get to where you are today?
Yes. So I joined the exec team about 10 years ago at New Way here in the capacity of vice president of sales. And with the size of company we are, the exec team, we work for our department, but then we also get together, we take off that hat and we work as executives. So I really got the opportunity to work hand in hand with operations, with safety, with IT. And as we worked through that, just kind of grew my business acumen beyond sales. And even within sales, it's like, okay, I have to make sure what I'm selling we can support. And then I have to hold that promise to our customers. So just continue to grow as an individual. And part of that journey for me, Patrick, is I love surrounding myself with just other individuals that can learn from and that we can bring one each other up. So I've been in a business group for about 8 years now. And I just pick up my phone sometimes and will call me like, hey, I'm stuck. What do you think? And we just bounce ideas off each other. So through that journey, I've really just kind of worked to sharpen my tools, to make sure I have the right resources around me. And that led me to a point a little over a year ago where we were transitioning the leadership of president, the role of president, and was asked to participate in that process. And I've been thankful and blessed to be able to take that next step and to lead New Way, and very honored to do that. It's a great responsibility that I take a lot of pride in, and it's just it's a fun role to be in every day, different challenges, but I am so blessed to be in this spot.
Did you take over from Vernon or did you take over from another president?
Yeah. I
before?
actually took over from another president who was here before me. And that gentleman had been here, I'm going to say, about 30 years, and we've been around for 32 years. So he was previously CFO and then stepped into the role of president. And then I backfilled him about a year ago.
So what have you learned in when you backfilled them about a year ago, between then and now? What have you learned? What would you say are the top 2 or 3 things you would share? I asked the question because I feel like your first year, 2 years, maybe even, you got very, what I call, fresh eyes. You look
Yeah.
at things differently. And I'm wondering if you found things that maybe used to work before that you might even be questioning. It's kind of like the idea that what got us here may not take us to the next place. Have
Yep.
you found things like that?
Yeah. So the person that I backfilled, Brian, I have so much respect for him.
Yes.
And the process started about even longer than a year ago. So I spent a lot of time just shadowing him and learning from him. But as I said, he was a CFO, right? And I'm a sales guy. And we work tremendously together because I'm the gas, he's the brakes. And I share that because that is definitely what I've learned is you have to have the right team around you and surround yourself with others who see things differently that can support your weakness. And over the last year, I definitely continue to lean into that with the executive team of, you know what, I'm not great at detail. So this is something that I'm going to lean on you for to help me out so we can make sure we stay the course. If you want an idea or a vision, I'm your guy. But at the same time, I need you guys to pull me back in too. So developing that team that is just so balanced of different thinking and different skill sets has been a huge part of that first year of growth.
How do you decide? You said you're the gas, he's the brakes. Talk about the last president.
Yeah.
I think that's really good insight for yourself. But how do you decide what things you need to really shore up and what things you can say, okay, I can delegate that to somebody with a stronger strength in that area than myself?
Yeah. I think that's something that I've navigated over the last year, and I'll navigate my whole career, right? I mean, it kind of goes back to the trust thing. You develop this trust and you extend trust, but you also have to keep them accountable. And, Rhythm's a great tool for that. Even within Rhythm, we just use our annual plan, our quarterly plan to check in and have that accountability there. So, I mean, that's something that we supplement ourselves to make sure that we have the right tools to stay on track. So it's really just, building that trust and empowering folks, but also make sure that empowering isn't just handing off, right?
Accountability is a key word here, because what I've learned over the years is that Rhythm, our tool and our methodology, really helps with accountability.
Yeah.
But I've unfortunately learned that accountability is no different from me handing you a sword. How you wield that sword and how you use that sword will then depend on whether or not the company is accountable. So what I'm trying to say is that we've got some clients that use the word accountability, but they are not able to use accountability to help the people succeed. You have been able to have the distinction between, commitment, execution. You seem to have done a really good job on accountability in a positive way. In other words, accountability is not just to whack people on the head. To me, accountability is to help people be accountable to being successful. How have you done that? How have you been doing that?
Yeah. I think it's just something that's been built over the years here of expecting excellence, right? As that when I show up prepared because I know Ryan's going to be prepared. I know Brendan's going to be prepared. I know Chris is going to be prepared. There's that expectation that they're counting on you, right? So, where you fit in the system to continue to make it work. And, we raise each other's bar. We're pushing each other forward. So I think that's one of the biggest things of accountability is you don't want to let the guy or gal next to you down.
Gotcha. So now that you've run the company for about a year, how are you seeing, what are some things that, like I said, some things get us to where we are? They may not help us get to the next place. And like you said before, you have great respect for the guy that you took over from. That being said, every company will hit places like that where I think your ability to say, you know what, something needs to change. this is a key lesson that I learned from Steve Jobs from Apple, right? Back in 1997, we came back to Apple and took it over again. He said something very interesting. He said that he had lost the PC war. He actually declared it publicly. He said, Microsoft has won that war. I've lost the PC war. He said, Apple is going to be the media hub of your life. That was a new vision he cast. And, I'm a Steve Jobs fan, I'm an Apple fan, but I don't think many of us understood what that meant. Like, I didn't know what the heck media hub meant. This is 1997.
Yeah.
This is before the iPod. And then he launched iLife, the whole iSuite of, iLife music, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And the iPod got birthed. But it was very interesting that if he hadn't said that, everyone would have thought that Apple would just continue fighting that PC war. But he said, no, I've lost that. I've lost that war. I'm like, I'm on the next thing now. I'm going to make Apple the media hub of your life. And today it is the media hub of my life.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. So yeah, for us, it's been a change in, okay, now we have someone that's more vision mindset. And, especially with trucking being as competitive as it is what are we paying someone to do today that maybe we could do? Or what's a service that's being offered that we're not offering that we can do? And again, it goes back to the team, right? Where I'm going to ask these questions, but I also need folks around me to say, that's a good idea, but that's too far away from our core, right? So it's had that team where you can say, yeah, that's something. Let's run with it. Let's check that out. Or you know what? That's going to take us too far away from who we are. And that's not the right move right now. So I love being in that role of vision. I love coming up with the ideas and hearing no most of the time, but it's the ones that are a yes, and we're going to take a step forward on. It's like, that's going to keep pushing us forward into the next 30 years.
So give me one practical thing that you do that allows your team to know that you don't mind. In fact, you like the word no, is what I heard you just say. Because I think a lot of, how should I put it? There's an innate fear in most people to say no to their president or their CEO, unless that person in authority really makes it clear that, hey, you know what? I like the word no. So what are a couple of practical things that you've done that give your people permission to share difficult news with you?
Yeah. So the biggest thing is our culture, and we have our culture principles, and one of them is around feedback. And we talk about our culture principles all the time. We spotlight where we're showing these things, but the feedback one is be bold and see it. And that is who we are. And we have learned that you can do that and you can gain from it. It's not a negative tool. So from that, people understand that we are going to give feedback to one another. And I think another part of what you said is, people not being reluctant to say no is, and this is really hard for me as a sales guy, is I've learned to be quiet, is to say something and then to let the others respond to it. And, that just opens the door for thoughts to be shared.
How did you learn to do that? You said it's really hard to do that as a sales guy. How did you learn how to do that?
So Patrick, I've learned I haven't mastered. I'll say that, but I'll go back to Brian. He was really good at that, at letting the room respond first. And then another thing is this business group that I'm in out of Chicago is we go around and somebody presents, and when we're done, you ask clarifying questions. So you listen to a whole presentation without asking any questions, which that alone teaches you, to sit there and listen, not just respond. So there's a couple things that have helped with that. I also heard at one time, I'm going to get these numbers wrong, but like we process information in 5 seconds and we respond in 2 seconds. And just understanding that maybe we need to sit here and take it in for a second.
Yeah. Give yourself a little bit more processing time before you respond.
Right.
Yeah. Yep. Stephen Covey calls that putting distance between receiving information and reaction. If you can just give yourself a couple more seconds, you might actually respond differently. And I agree with that. I think, if I think back to, unfortunately, most of the arguments I've had with my wife, happily married 36 years though, is if I had just kept my mouth shut for a couple more seconds, I probably would have said something differently.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, you and me both, Patrick.
So I'm still practicing that, not perfection.
It's a great skill. It is a great skill.
Ryan, thank you so much. I've learned so much from you today. I've also learned that you are a humble guy. You have you have confidence in everything, but at the same time, you want feedback. It takes it takes somebody with humility to say, hey, you know what? Give me feedback. It's okay. And then also the desire to learn, give space in the room for other people. Those are all humility in action is what I call it. So, this podcast is really about helping all our CEOs, our listeners, have a more joyful and successful life. And so my last question for our session today is, what advice would you like to leave with the audience so they can have a more joyful and successful life?
Yeah, Patrick, I love the question. I will just say, pouring into other people is worth every minute of it. And I have benefited from that myself. I'm thankful to have the opportunity to do that with our team here, with my friends, with my family. I remember we have an employee engagement survey, and we talked about Vernon earlier, and somebody just in the feedback, random comment at the end said, take the Vernon approach, the four corners approach. And I didn't know what that was. And I asked the individual, I said, what's the four corners approach? And he goes to all four corners of the building. And what he was saying there is he makes sure that he's interacting with everybody, no matter the role, no matter the person. We all play a part in it. And I'm just so thankful that I get to continue that and that I get to work with folks. And when I see them succeed from being helped by other people, it's amazing. And, we talk about what we can be. I don't know what we can be, but if we continue to pour in and develop our people, the sky's the limit. And that's exciting to me. It's exciting to be a part of that and help other people. So that was really long-winded, but
No, I got that. Pour into people. So what is one action that I can take right now, today, to live your advice?
I would say just be intentional and slow down. We are all so busy, but you don't know what people are going through or how much that small conversation might be exactly what they need. So people matter, and just have that conversation. It's good for everybody. It's good for them. It's good for you. And it makes all the difference.
Thank you, Ryan. Melissa, back to you.
Yeah, Ryan, thank you so much for joining us today and for sharing your journey. And thanks to all of you for listening to the Journey to CEO Success. Join us next time for another conversation with the CEO about what it really takes to grow a business, lead well, and be joyful. Until next time, bye for now.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bo.